Welcome once again to our Beginner's Guide to Yoga Movement series. This is class 4 of our 6-session sequence. Today, I would like us to start our practice with alternate nostril breath. Now, there's many forms of alternate nostril breathing, and I will just give you this one variation, and as you progress with your practice, you'll be learning more and more ways to work with measured breath, which this is a method of. When we work with alternate nostril breathing, it balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. We're also looking at left and right sun, moon, and it's a very useful tool in concentration, relaxation, and increasing your focus and attention. So let's begin. So we're going to sit ourselves up. You can see that I'm sitting on a cushion. I have just a little bit of a lift. You could also be sitting on a chair if you choose to. Find a nice, comfortable placement of your legs and a nice long line through your spine. And just simply allow yourself to take a few deep inhalations and exhalations, following your breath in and out gently. Now we begin with diaphragmatic breathing. So as we inhale, the diaphragm moves down. You're inviting breath in. As you exhale, the diaphragm releases, and we just simply press the breath out. Once you feel comfortable with diaphragmatic breathing, then you bring the breath into the side body. So the diaphragm moves downward, the ribs spread to the sides, into the back. And then as we exhale, the diaphragm releases and the rib cage closes, and we gently send the breath out. We've done various practices of looking at this pause at the top of the breath and the pause at the bottom of the breath. We had a strap around the torso so we could feel the expansive nature of the breath as it moves in all directions and then returns to the center as we exhale. And so let's bring those tools of our practice into play right now. So inhale, the diaphragm moves downward, the ribs spread to the sides, even feeling the breath move into the back. And as we exhale, our diaphragm releases and the rib cage closes, squeezing the breath out. And take an extra second or two at the bottom of the inhalation. At the top of the inhalation, and take a few seconds extra at the bottom of the exhalation. Inhale, diaphragm moving downward, rib cage spreading to the sides and into the back, pausing at the top. Exhale, the diaphragm releases, the rib cage closes, gently squeezing the breath out, pausing at the bottom. Cultivating a smooth, seamless breath. Now, once you feel gathered, present, then we're going to work with the alternate nostril breath. So a very simple movement here would be to take the index finger and the thumb, or you take your ring finger and your thumb, and those are your 2 touch points. If you'd like to work with the mudra, it's very simple. You take the little finger and you bring it underneath your ring finger, so it looks like that, and then the first 2 fingers come into your palm. So you're working with your ring finger and your thumb. This would be the hand placement or the mudra for this particular practice. The thumb touches one nostril, the ring finger touches another nostril. So then what happens is, it doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed, but for this exercise, we're gonna start with our breath on the left side. So very softly, you're just gonna simply touch the nostril, it will close, and we're going to inhale through our left side. Now close both of your nostrils, pause, release the right nostril, and exhale. Inhale the right side. Close both nostrils and pause. Release the left and exhale. That's one round of this form of alternate nostril. Again, inhale, left side. Pause and close both nostrils. Release the right and exhale. Inhale, right. Pause, close both nostrils. Release the left and exhale. That's 2 rounds. And again, inhale left. Close both and pause. Exhale, you'll release through the right nostril. Inhale, right nostril. Pause, close both, release, and exhale through the left nostril. That's 3 rounds. 1 more round. Inhale left. Close both nostrils, pause, release the right, exhale. Inhale right. Pause, close both nostrils, release the left, and exhale. And that's the end of our 4th round. Now just simply release the arms. Nice, smooth, steady breath through both nostrils. Notice the energy in the breath, the quality of your mind. And then let's bring our hands to heart center and we'll begin with 1 Om. Deep breath in. Namaste. So alternate nostril breath is very good for concentration and focus. I recommend that you practice daily and find out for yourself what the effects are. So I'd like to introduce you to the 8-limb practice of Ashtanga Yoga. And this is found in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which was put together somewhere around the time of Christ, a little bit before. And so what we have is 8 limbs of practice. And the first limb is yamas, or observances. And the first one is ahimsa, non-harming. The second is satya, which is truthfulness. The third is asteya, which is not taking what isn't freely given, so not stealing. The fourth is brahmacharya, which is basically impeccable conduct with other sentients. And that can be people, animals, the nature, everything around us. And then aparigraha, which is non-attachment, non-accumulation. The second limb is the niyamas, which are personal observations. So things like satya, which is purity, cleanliness, and it can be as simple as making sure you keep your body and your teeth clean. And then santosha, which is contentment. And this is the kind of a contentment which is not a complacency, but being truly present and where you're at and being grateful for where you are in this moment of time. And then we have tapas, which is the practices of coming into yoga, pranayama. Some would say it's being in a rock and a hard spot. So that's that energy where you're polishing yourself. The fourth is svadhyaya, which is self-study and really truly knowing yourself at the depth of your center of your being. And the fifth is Ishwara Pranidhana, which is a relationship with the divine. So what you're doing, and these are loose translations, but what you're doing is there is a depth of being greater than just the physical form. There's an essence of self that we all understand and are looking to reach. The third limb is asana, which is the physical practice of yoga. The fourth limb is pranayama, and then prana is the energy within us. Ayama is freedom. So we're looking to free the breath, free the energy within the body, and let it flow. The fifth limb is pratyahara, and pratyahara translates as not to choose. So what we're doing is we're uncoupling the senses, and this is the beginning of the concentration, mindful practices within the tradition. The sixth limb is dharani, which is concentration practices like mantras, following a prayer, looking at an image like a photograph, a candle, things like that. And then we have dhyana, which is actual meditation practice, a single pointed concentration. And then the eighth limb is samadhi, which is freedom. It is bliss. It's ananda. And this is more like a wheel of these 8 limbs where we can practice any one of these limbs by itself, but when we practice them all together, we get a stronger practice of asana. So it's like the limbs of a stool. If you had just one leg, it wouldn't be very stable. 2 would be a little bit more stable. 3 would be much more stable. 4, 5, 6, all the way to 8. So that's the Ashtanga system. And now let's begin our practice. So this is what we're looking towards. However, what we're focusing on in this series is the practice of asana and the practice of pranayama, and then we look towards our concentration practices. So those are the 3 focuses that we bring together as we practice. So now from there, let's bring ourselves up and we'll review what we've learned so far. All right? So bring yourself to the front of your mat and find your feet. Spread your toes out. Big toe, little toe, center of the heel. Arms resting along the sides of the torso, lifting and lengthening up through the crown of your head. Now the ball of the big toe, the little toe, the center of the heel are equally present in the floor on both of our feet. Let the arms rest and just simply hang. And we're lifting up through the back line of the skull, softly gazing downward. Each breath, ebbing and flowing, ebbing and flowing. And let's gently bring our hands to heart center, softly gazing downward. We're going to take a deep breath in. With our arms, we're going to release them down. Inhale, up and over heart center, high prayer. And then we're going to start with C series. So we're going to lift the chest, gently arching back. And then with our exhale, let's sweep the arms open. We're going to bend our knees, come into our own lap, tuck our chin, look towards knees, look towards navel center. Then we're going to take our right foot, step it back into the outside. We start out with a high lunge with the legs. Then we drop our knees, point our toe, and we lift ourselves up away from that lunge. Now use your front leg to guide your right hip forward, and we pause right where we need to. So we're not dumping at our belly. Take a deep breath in. And with our exhale, let's bring our hands down. We're going to turn the toe under, lift ourselves up and back into our downward facing dog. From the downward dog, we're going to hinge forward into the plank position. No high knees, no saggy bellies. Then we drop our knees, our chest, and our chin to the floor, 8-pointed stick. Then we press into the hands, we lift ourselves up, come forward onto our belly, we point our toes. Now the pubic bone, the knees, the feet are on the floor. Lift your spine with the spine without letting the legs lift. So we don't have energy in the legs. And then from here, we're going to pull forward as if we could pull ourselves right out of our pants, dragging the legs on the ground. But the pubic bone stays heavy. And then let's pick ourselves up onto our hands and knees, spread our fingers, and then we're going to lift the knees up, and then we press back, hinging back through the arms and through the shoulders, lengthen out through our spine.
And then we slowly invite the legs to straighten without letting that rebound come back into our back. So the spine leads us. Then at the bottom of our exhale, we're going to look between our hands. We're going to step our right foot forward, pausing in this high lunge position. Then we drop our knee down, we point the toe, we pull ourselves up away from the lunge with our legs. And then we're going to softly pull the hip forward, pause right where we need to. So there's no lunging, we're not using or dumping at the belly, we're not using the back leg as a kickstand. And then from here, we're going to come forward, turn our toes under, lift the back knee, push off, come into our standing forward fold, hanging down. Now feel the ball of the big toe, the little toe, the center of the heel on the floor. We're going to take the arms, sweep open. Now we're going to pull our heart forward. As we pull the heart forward, we pull the hips down. We bring our palms together. We're going to arch back, lift ourselves up into the standing back arch. And then as we exhale, we release, and we bring our hands back to the beginning, back to where we started. Let's take a deep breath in. With our exhale, the arms release once again. Inhale, up and over heart center, palms together, arching back, lift the chest. As we exhale, bend the knees, we come into our own lap, into our standing forward fold. Now this time, let's take our left foot back, stepping back, pressing back through the heel. Drop the knee, turn the toes under so that they're pointed, and we lift ourselves up. Hinge forward. And remember, you can rock back and forth if you'd like. We're trying to keep the feet set, so we're using the hips, using the legs, not the feet. If you'd like to, you can add a little back bend in here, crescent moon. And in the crescent moon, we lift the chest up. So again, notice you're not just dumping forward. As soon as you lose balance, pause, back up a little bit. And then with our exhale, we're going to come forward into the low lunge. We turn our toes under, we pick up the knee. Now keep in mind, you could also take both of your feet back, go back into the downward facing dog if you'd like to. Stepping back with both feet. And then we're going to come into our plank position. No high knees, no saggy bellies. We drop our knees, our chest, and our chin, 8-pointed stick. Feet stay on the ground. And then we press into the hands. We come up onto the belly. Now point the toes. Belly, pubic bone, knees, feet are on the floor. Lift the spine with the spine. And then we pull forward. We're trying to come out of our pants, keeping the knees, the feet, and the pelvis down. Then pick up onto your hands and knees. Spread your fingers. Pick up the knees. And then we're going to hinge back. And we reach overhead. Pressing back through the butt. Drawing the legs up just a bit as we try to bring the heels towards the floor. It does not matter if the heels touch or if the legs are straight. It matters if your spine is straight. Now, we went back with our left foot, so we're going to come forward with the left foot. And remember, you can drop your knees down to bring the left foot forward and then pick up the back knee. We drop it down anyway, and then you're going to lift yourself up away from the lunge. Use the front leg to bring the back hip forward. We pause right where we need to. You can stay here. Or if you'd like to, again, you can bring the arms up, add a little variation called a crescent moon. And notice I'm not dumping forward. So you're lifting way up under your heart center. And then as we exhale, we come down, we turn the toes under, push off our back foot, and bring both feet back to the beginning into the standing forward fold. Let's take our arms, we're going to sweep open, pull our heart forward as we press the heels down, palms together, we arch back, and as we arch back, we're not throwing the belly forward. And as we exhale, return to where we started, back to the beginning. And let's do that again. So we take a deep breath in, release the arms down. Inhale, up and over heart center, high prayer, arch back gently, and then as you exhale, down we go into the standing forward fold position. Now take the hands down to the floor, step your right foot back again. We drop the knee down to the floor, lift yourself up away from the lunge, and then just research rocking forward and back a few times if you'd like. And then you'll pause. Now you can stay here, hands at the hips, hands on the thigh, or if you'd like, you can come into the crescent moon position.
Notice that you're not grabbing with your feet. Take your time. Now take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, come over the front leg, hands to the floor. Step both of your feet back into the downward facing dog. Now from your down dog, hinge forward into the plank position, nice and straight from the crown of your head to your heels. You're pushing to the heels, you're pushing into your hands. Drop your knees down, high knees up. Exhale, chest to the space in front of your thumbs. 8-pointed stick, knees, chest, chin. Now inhale, lift up, come forward onto your belly. Point your toes. And now you're gonna pull yourself right out of your pants. You're picking the spine up with the muscles in your back. Your pelvis stays down. And now lift up onto your hands and knees. Turn the toes under. Lift the knees just a fraction off the floor. And then hinge back, leading with the hips into the downward facing dog. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Now the bottom of your exhale, you're gonna bring your right foot forward, and you can drop the knee or just bring the foot forward. You'll lift yourself up away from the lunge, get yourself set, adjust the front foot, and we come away from the lunge into knee on the floor. Inhale, rise up. And now rock back and forth if you'd like to. You're loosening your foot just as you stand a little bit. Yeah. Lift up the arms if you care to. Just find the position. Breathe. Now with your exhale, slowly come forward, and you're going to bring both feet to the front. So you pick up the back knee, turning the toes under, and then you'll push off as you exhale into your standing forward fold. Tuck your chin, look towards the knees, look towards your navel center. Now take the arms, sweep them open, pull your heart forward as you pull your hips down, pressing the heels, palms together, lifting the heart center, arching back, and then release. Coming back to the beginning, back to where we started, Tadasana. Now from here, we're gonna work with our A series salutation. So we take another deep breath in. With our exhale, our arms release. Inhale, up and over heart center, high prayer. Now we do not arch back here. Even weight in our feet, nice straight line. With our exhale, we spread the wings. We're gonna bend our knees, come all the way down into the standing forward fold. We wanna hinge so that the ribs and the thighs connect. Now let's bring our hands to our hips. We're gonna come up halfway, looking to have the torso parallel to the floor. Let's bring our hands down to the floor. We're gonna step both of our feet back into the downward facing dog. Now hinge forward into the plank position. No high knees, no saggy bellies. Push to hands, push to heels, and we slowly lower down, Chaturanga Dandasana. We pause, and then come all the way down. Point the toes, lift the chest, and then you're gonna pick up the back bend, launching the legs. Upward facing dog. Drop your knees, turn your toes under. Now spread your fingers. The index fingers are parallel to each other. We lift the knees and we hinge back into the downward facing dog. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. So your gaze or your drishti is at the big toe, maybe the knees or the navel center. Back of your neck is long and we're pressing back. Now at the bottom of your exhale, look between your hands and we're just gonna walk our feet forward. Doesn't matter how many steps you take. And we'll bring our hands to our hips once we arrive, coming up into a half lift. We're not gripping with the feet, we're balanced left and right. As we exhale, come into the standing forward fold once again. Now take your arms, sweep them open, pull your heart forward. As you pull the hips down, we rise up into the high prayer, nice straight line. And with our exhale, release back to the center. Let's do that again. So let's release the arms down. Inhale, high prayer, the arms stay in front of the line of the torso. We're not doing a back bend here. Then as we exhale, we spread our wings, we bend our knees, we come into our own lap, tuck the chin, look to navel. Bring your hands to your hips with your inhale. Pick up your heart center, half lift, and then hands to the floor. And let's take both of our feet back into the downward facing dog. Now let's hinge forward into the plank position. And keep in mind, if you can't come down with the knees off the floor, you can drop the knees. But when we slowly lower down, chaturanga, you don't sag at the belly or pick your butt up. Then we come all the way down, you point the toes, lift the spine first without the legs, and then we straighten out the arms, the chest is higher than the shoulder blades, and then we launch the legs, but the pubic bone stays heavy. Now let's drop our knees, turn the toes under, we're gonna lift just off the floor, and then we hinge back into the downward facing dog. We soften our eyes, we deepen our breath, all the way in and out. And then the bottom of our exhale, we'll look between our hands. We're gonna step our feet forward, hands to hips, half lifting, lengthening out through the crown of the head. Exhale, back into our forward fold. Now take your arms, sweep open, and as you inhale, pull your heart forward as you pull the hips down. Nice even weight in the feet. And release. And we're gonna come back to the beginning, back to where we started. Let's do one more of those. We're gonna release our arms. Again, as we inhale, the arms stay in front of the line of the torso. Nice long line from heel to fingertip. Exhale, we come into our standing forward fold position. Hanging down, the back of the neck is long. It does not matter how straight your legs are. Now bring your hands to your hips, pick up your heart center, coming into a half lift position. Now the hands come to the floor. You're gonna step both of your feet back into the downward facing dog. When you're ready, you'll hinge forward into your plank position. Take a nice deep inhale. Now push to heels, push into your hands, Chaturanga Dandasana. Remember, you can drop the knees if you'd like. Pause, go all the way down. Now lift the spine with the spine, the legs stay on the earth. Now pull yourself forward as you start to straighten out the arms, lifting the upward dog position, and then if you'd like, you can launch the legs. Now drop your knees, turn your toes under, pause in this four-pointed position, lift the knees off the floor, and then hinge back, going through the shoulders, going through the groin lines. Then seeing about the legs, whether they straighten or not. Keep pressing into the hands. Let your shoulder blades move. Let them lift, lengthen. We just want to keep them from squishing together so they stay on the back, but they lift up. We breathe. Now the bottom of your next exhalation, you can take a lot of little steps or big step, 1 foot at a time. Scoop up your heart center into the half lift. Soften your eyes, let them gently gaze downward, and then exhale back into your forward fold. Tuck your chin, look towards knees, look towards your navel center. And then we're going to take the arms, we're going to sweep them open, pull your heart forward, and as the chest rises, the hips come down, coming up into the high prayer, and release back to the beginning, back to where we started. Position 1 or Samastitihi. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that sun salutation A and we're going to work the vinyasa, which is going to be this fluid link motion from posture to posture using our breath. Right? So let's come again to the front of the mat. We find our feet, ball the big toe, little toe, center of the heel, arms resting along the sides of your torso. Let's bring our hands to heart center, softly gazing downward. Take a deep breath in. With our exhale, our arms release. Inhale, up and over heart center, high prayer. And with our exhale, we come forward into our own lap, tuck our chin, look towards the knees, then navel. Hands to hips. Inhale, half lift. Hands to the earth. Let's step both of our feet back into the downward facing dog. Hinge forward into the plank. Nice deep inhalation. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Then we come on down. Lift the chest. Then pick up the back bend. Launch the legs. Chest is higher than the shoulder blades. Drop your knees, turn the toes under. Let's pause, lift just a fraction away from the floor, and then back we go. Downward facing dog. Soft, soft eyes. Deep, deep breath. Now let's take our left femur, we're gonna dial it out just a little bit, and we're gonna bring our right foot forward behind our right hand, and we're gonna come on up. And we have our feet offset, our back foot is barely turned out. And we're gonna start out keeping the hips squared up, and we're gonna simply bend our front knee, pulling the front knee forward, taking the back hip along. We keep the back leg straight, torso stays lined up over the hips so we're not dumping or gripping. And then we're gonna bring the palms together, and with our inhale, we're gonna lift up into the forward facing hero position. Virabhadrasana 1. So we're not dumping the belly or letting the hips turn from square. And then with our exhale, we're gonna softly come back down, bring our hands to the floor, pick up our right foot and step back into our downward facing dog. Now you could just stay in the downward facing dog, or you could come onto your hands and knees. You can rock back and forth. Remember when we did this in our very first class, okay? Or you can also do a few little cat stretching type of movements or pelvic tilting. Otherwise, if you'd like to run through the vinyasa practice with a little bit more vigor, you'll come into the plank position, Chaturanga Dandasana. Come on down. Lift the chest, and with your inhale, we pick up the back bend, upward dog, eyes off cheekbones. Drop your knees, excuse me, turn your toes under, lift, and back we go into our downward facing dog. So no matter which path you took, you just simply end up back here in down dog. Now we're going to take our right femur, dial it out just a little bit, and take the left foot forward behind the left hand. Now the femur is the thigh bone from the hip to above the knee. Now our hips are squared up as best as we can. We're not grabbing with our feet. And we're just going to simply bend our front knee, tracks towards the second toe, and the back hip is coming forward. And we pause right where we need to. Then with our inhale, we'll bring the palms together. We lift up, the arms stay in front of the line of the torso. And envision that you're lifting up the back of your rib cage versus back bending and throwing yourself back. The movement, the stretch, is in the front of the right thigh. And then as we exhale, we'll go back down, bring the hands back onto the floor. Now pick up the left foot, bring it back into the downward facing dog. Let's hinge forward into the plank. No high heighties. You can drop your knees, or Chaturanga Dandasana. Then we come on down, point the toes, lift the chest. You could also stay low here. Otherwise, pick up the upward dog, launch the legs last, drop your knees. As you exhale, turn your toes under, lift, and back we go into a downward facing dog. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Breathe. Now from here, you could stay in this position. You can drop your knees down. You could also even sit back in a child's pose, bringing the arms along the sides of the torso. Otherwise, the next movement would be to take both of your feet, bring the feet forward between your hands, bring the hands to your hips, pick up your heart center, half lifting, and with your exhale, come into a forward fold. Now, you can stay here, or with your inhale, you'll rise up, coming up to the high prayer. Now, we're just going to pause right here, and then with our exhale, we're just going to come right back down. So we're not going to stop, because we're not actually doing a sun salute. We bring our hands to our hips, we pull our heart forward, coming into a half lift. With our exhale, bring your hands down and step your feet back into your downward facing dog. Hinge forward into the plank position, lower Chaturanga Dandasana, then you come on down. Point your toes, lift the chest, then if you choose to, pick up the back bend, launch the legs up dog, eyes off cheekbones, drop your knees, turn your toes under, we pause, we lift, and then back we go into our downward facing dog position. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath,
All right, now from here, we're going to dial our left femur out. We're going to take our right foot, bring it behind the right hand, and we're going to rise back up to standing. Excuse me. Now our hips are squared forward, and we're going to combine a few postures. So we're going to take one of our blocks, if you have one, and bring that block inside of your front foot. You could also use a chair or anything that would give you a surface that you could reach, right? Now, spreading the toes out, find the ball of the big toe, the little toe, the center of your heel, and now from here we're going to deepen our right groin line, and you're going to come forward, keeping your hips squared up. So envision like you're coming over a fence rail with both of your hips. And then the hands will come onto the block. Make any adjustments with your feet. And your back foot is barely turned out. So watch when you got your back foot way overly rotated. We want to try to keep our hips as squared towards the front as possible. So this is a high version of a pose that's called a pyramid. We can stay right here, or if you'd like to, you can come a little lower and you can come all the way down into your forward fold. So maybe the hands can touch the floor, or maybe slide down your shin, or just keep them on the block. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath, all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Now from here, you're going to lift the chest up. We're going to bring our hands back up onto the block. Now we're going to add the revolved triangle here again. We've broken this down, so we're going to repeat it. Our left hand stays on the block. Our right hand is going to come to our sacral plane. Now we're not going to turn the hips or use our legs. We're going to turn our belly button to the right. So there's just this gentle movement, and if the belly doesn't move, this is where you stop. The shoulder turns, the head follows the shoulder, and we breathe. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. So just a little bit of a lift here and a little drop back there. There we go. Notice if you have any tension in your jawline, in your tongue. Are you breathing or are you holding the breath? Soften your eyes. So turn just in a little bit so that you can move better here. Feel? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now turn. Yeah, good. Now look down, and you're going to gently release both hands back onto the block. So we're back into a pyramid, but it's a high pyramid, lengthening out through the spine. Now from here, we're going to take our left femur, and we're going to gently rotate it to the left. So our left foot's going to rotate open about a 45-degree angle or so. Our front foot stays pointed straight ahead. Now bend your front knee a little bit. Keep your right hand on the block, and you're going to bring your left hand to your sacral plane. Now envision that you're just going to leave your left hip drop forward. So we're not rotating the left leg out. We're just going to leave it right where it is. And then you're going to push into your heel on the right leg. Draw your right groin line up, straightening out the leg just a bit. Keep an external rotation so the outside of your right hip is going back towards the back of the mat. Now from here, you're going to turn your belly open to the left, keeping the legs the way they are. And then if you can, you're going to take the weight out of your right hand and then just gently place the right hand inside of your leg. And if you'd like to, you're just going to simply reach up through your left arm. You can turn your head if you'd like to. Keep your chin, your nose towards your armpit, gazing up at the left thumbnail. Softening your eyes, deepening your breath. Notice if you're grabbing with your feet. Each breath, ebbing and flowing. So soften the leg just a bit. So you got some grabbing going on here. And then just leave this one. And now turn your belly. And not too far. So notice like back up just shy of being at the edge. Does that make sense? All right. Now take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, take your left arm, reach overhead, nice stretch, and turn, and bring both hands back onto that block. Back to the pyramid. Now move your block off to the side. and you're going to hang down over your front leg. Now from here, when you're ready, you'll bend your front knee, place the hands flat on the floor, and take your right leg and step back into a downward facing dog. Now same choices. You can be in down dog. You could drop to the knees. You could rock back and forth if you'd like to. A few little cat flexion and extension movements, okay? Or if you'd like, plank position, Chaturanga Dandasana. Come on down. Lift the back bend without using the legs. Pick up the upward facing dog, then launch the legs, soft eyes, off your cheekbones. Drop your knees, turn your toes under, lift the knees, and then hinge back through your arms, through the groin lines. Deep breath. We all catch up in the down dog. Now you're going to dial your right femur out a little bit. Bring your left foot forward. Grab your block and bring one of your blocks inside of your foot again. Now use your legs to lift yourself up. Your feet are offset. You can make a few adjustments. Your back foot is slightly turned out, but not a lot. And now from here, bend your front knee again. You're going to hinge forward as if you're going over a railing. Bring the hands down onto the block, lengthening out through your spine. Breathe. Now from here, if you'd like to, you can come down all the way without changing the hips. So your hips don't rotate open. You're hinging through both of your groin lines. Tuck your chin and look back at your back foot, knee, or navel. All right, now let's bring our hands back up onto the block. We're going to lengthen out through our spine. We're going to keep our right hand on the block. Our left hand comes to our sacral plane. We want the hips squared up to the front of the mat and the sacrum squared up to the floor. Softly, we're just going to simply dial our belly to the left. You can just play here. You're not moving the hips. You're not grabbing with the feet. The shoulder follows. Maybe the head follows the shoulders. And then we just simply breathe. Soften your eyes. Deepen your breath. So keep that nice flow of breath coming and going. All the way to the bottom. All the way to the top. Yeah, this side's much more balanced. Each breath ebbing and flowing. Make sure that, again, you're not grabbing with your feet. If you are, back up just a hair, so just a little bit. Yes. Perfect. And now very softly, you're going to look down, and as you exhale, bring both of your hands back down onto the block. You make any adjustments that you need to make here. Now you're going to bend the front knee a little bit. You're going to pick up your right ball of your foot. You're going to rotate the right femur open just a hair. So your foot might be at a 45-degree angle. Now bring your right hand onto your sacrum. Bend your left knee. It's tracking right towards your second toe. And now from here, turn your torso open to the right without really torquing on your hips. Your right hip's going to stay forward. And then from here, draw your left leg up. See if you can take the weight out of your left hand. You'll take the right arm, reach up, and then we simply turn the head, look towards the right thumb. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. All the way in, all the way out. And again, notice if you're grabbing with your toes. Come on, just a hair. And that should help you release your feet.
They were tight to begin with.
No, your toes are white.
They always are.
Soften your eyes. Deepen your breath. Just envision turning torso, spinning belly button. Each breath, ebbing and flowing. Now take the right arm and reach out overhead. Track it down. Bring your hands back onto the block. And we're going to come into our pyramid position. Coming back down into the fold, move the block out if you think you don't need it, and come all the way down over the front leg. Looking to have the hips squared up. Your back foot's going to rotate in because the head of the femur is rotating in. So you're more squared up with the front of your mat. Now from here, we're going to bring the hands onto the earth. Step both of your feet back.
coming into the downward facing dog. And here you have options again. So you can drop your knees. You can rock back and forth if you'd like to. You could come into your child's pose and just wait. Or from here, you can come into your plank position. Chaturanga Dandasana. Come on down. Lift cobra variation, nice and low. Or lift the upward dog. The chest is in front of the arms. We launch the legs. Eyes off cheekbones. Now drop your knees. Turn your toes under. We pause, lift the knees just a fraction off the floor, and we hinge back into the downward facing dog. Now you can stay here or drop down to the knees, child's pose. Otherwise, we're going to step both of our feet forward. Bring our hands to hips, half lifting. Exhale into the fold. You can stay here as well. Inhale, we ride up on the breath, pause at the top, and then with our exhale, we're gonna go right back down into the standing forward fold. Bring your hands to your hips, pull your heart forward, half lifting. Bring the hands to the earth, both of our feet step back into the down dog. Now, if you were waiting for us, you could catch up here or just stay where you are. Coming into the plank position, you can drop the knees or lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Come on down, stay low with the cobra or lift the upward facing dog. Drop your knees, turn the toes under, lift, and we all meet back into the downward facing dog. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Now let's look between our hands and we're going to step both of our feet forward again between the hands. Bring your hands to your hips, half lifting as you inhale. Exhale, standing forward folds. Let's take the arms, we're going to sweep open. We rise up to the high prayer. And now let's release and we bring our hands to heart center, back to where we started. Now we're going to work with tree balance and work with the figure four. So with the tree balance, we're going to find the feet. You can stay just at the front of your mat, adjust yourself however you'd like to. And we're going to start out by simply picking up our right heel. Now when you pick up the right heel, you want to be lifting the outside edge of your left ankle up. So we're not letting our hips throw to the left. We're keeping the outside of the standing leg strong. Then from here, if it's possible, we're just going to simply pick up the knee by flexing through the right hip. And you can release, come back down, pick up, and just find this nice balance point. So you can stay here. This is fine. Otherwise, we're going to do the external rotation. So you can see it's just a simple rotation here at the hip. Hips don't work left or right. You just stay nice and solid, nice and balanced. Then from here, you're going to bend the knee, bring the ankle above your left knee, and just let the right knee relax. Standing nice and tall in a figure four. And then we're going to take a little seat here and just simply find the posture and breathe. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath, and just focus on balancing on one foot. When we come out, start over, take your time, notice what you're feeling. Balance first. Doesn't matter how far you go into the posture. Then from your figure four, you're simply going to rise up, pick up your knee, and put your right foot down. Now we're going to do the other side. So we set the weight into your right foot, pick up your left heel, picking up the outside of our right leg. So the muscles on the outside of the leg are strong on the standing leg. And then from here, if you can, simply pick up the knee. You're working with the flexor. You can simply stay here. Otherwise, if it's possible, you're going to do this slight external rotation. Hips don't deviate from being squared to the floor. If you have your balance, go off, come back. Maybe you have to come down, and you start over again. So you pick up the heel, lift, externally rotate. Then you're going to bend the knee, and you're going to bring the ankle above your thigh. And then we're just going to very softly take a seat. Now, if you can't take the seat, just work with the figure four.
Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. You'll notice that left and right side are different. You're taking a little seat down underneath you, flexing through your hips. It doesn't matter how far you go. If you have a little bit of off with your balance, you can use a wall or you can put your hand on a chair, something of that nature. And then when we're ready, we'll lift up and back to the beginning, back to where we started. Now let's pick up our right heel again. We're gonna pick up the knee. Now this time we're gonna externally rotate, take the leg out and see if you can put the heel somewhere on the inside front edge of your thigh. You could also be way down here and just put the foot on the opposite foot, rotating the femur out. We want our hips to stay squared up. So this is the important part of this posture. Don't let the hip fly up or turn. So now your hips are squared up ahead. You're doing a slight external rotation. We pause right here. Now maybe our hands come to heart center. Maybe the arms come up. And the last thing that you would do, if your balance is good, is you would gently gaze up and look through your thumbs. It's hard to do that and talk at the same time. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Take your time. Now from here to come down, it'll be the same way that you went up. So you'll bring the hands down to heart center, release the foot, and bring the foot back down to the earth. Now we'll do the other side. So we're going to start up by picking up the heel, then pick up the knee, external rotation, take the leg out, bend the knee, bring the heel somewhere on the inside of the thigh in the front edge, hips stay squared up, and then we're just focusing on the external rotation at the left hip without turning the hips forward. Picking up the outside edge of your standing leg, you can use a wall. Maybe the hands come to heart center. Maybe they come up overhead. Your arms stay in front of the line of the torso. And then maybe you can very softly look up. Breathe. Take your time. Each breath ebbing and flowing. So the breath is primary. Whether you look up or not, that doesn't matter. Look for the balance first. Excellent. Now from here, you're going to slowly bring the arms down, and then you'll lift the leg up, gently bring it to the floor. Back to the beginning, back to where we started. Soften our eyes, deepen our breath. Now from here, we're going to pick up our right knee, and we're just gonna hold it right here. If it's possible, you're gonna bring your hands underneath the thigh. Now your hips are staying squared up, and then very softly, can you straighten the leg, bend the knee, straighten, bend, straighten, and bend. Now see if you can just hold the leg out there without letting the leg drop, so your thigh is parallel to the floor. Now let's bend the knee, release, and we'll put the foot back down. Now let's do the other side. So we're gonna place the weight in the right foot, pick up the left knee, flexing at the hip, then we'll bring our hands under the thigh, stretch out through the leg, and then bend the knee. Lengthen and bend. Lengthen and bend. You can pause and hold the leg out there and breathe. And when we're ready, we release and bring the foot back down. So we're looking to do a posture which is called standing big toe. And what we're doing is we want to keep the hips squared up, and all you're doing is exactly the movement that we just did, right? But some of us are a little bit more mobile. So what you can do is you're going to pick up the right heel, you'll pick up the knee. Now you can hold the knee in without lifting up the hip, and then just see if you can get your foot. Now if you can get the big toe, then you're just going to simply straighten out the leg, and you'll hold it out there in front of you. It's not necessary to straighten out the leg. So the leg can stay bent. We want to be aware that we're not hiking up through the hip, nor are you lying back. Breathe. And then from here, you're just going to simply release the foot, bend the knee back in, and then put the foot back down. So we want to move with control in and out. Let's do the other side. So the weight is to the right foot, we pick up the knee. Now keep in mind, this is where you can be, holding the leg and then stretching and extending. If it's possible for you to get the knee, get the foot, and then grab a hold of the toe. Once you have that, then you're just simply looking to straighten out the leg. Maybe your leg doesn't straighten out all the way. Doesn't matter. Maybe you're just right here, holding the leg out. Soften your eyes. Notice if you're leaning back, if you're trying to make something happen, or you're past your range of motion because that's where you think you should be. And then very gently, you'll release the same way that you went in, and bring the leg back down, back to Tadasana. Come to the front of your mat if you left it, and we're going to run through an A-series salute and come down to the floor. So we have our hands to heart center, take a deep breath in, exhale, arms release, inhale, up and over heart center, high prayer. Exhale, let's come on down into our own lap. Bring your hands to your hips, lift your heart center, half lift. Hands to the floor, feet step back into a downward face. You can stay there or hinge forward. Chaturanga Dandasana, come on down. Lift your chest, then lift up, launching up dog. Drop your knees, turn the toes under, lift, pause, and back we go into the downward facing dog. Now look between your hands, and we're going to take the knees to the space between our hands, and we're going to sit on down. Now we're going to do a few seated positions. So we're going to start out with a position that is called Dandasana. And Dandasana is seated staff position. So we can take a blanket and bring an edge up underneath the hips. Now we want to be able to have a right angle between the floor and our torso. So if you feel rounded or leaning back, it's necessary for your knees to bend a little bit, right? And have a little bit of an edge, and then turn the toes up so that you're pointing up to the ceiling with your knees and you're pointing up to the ceiling with your toes, right? Then you'll bring the hands on the edge of the cushion that you're sitting on, or the hands on the floor. It depends upon where your ability is to have the legs straight. You can put a little bit of something under the knees, like Keith has, and now you want to focus on your feet, Keith? Yeah. All right, now wherever you're at, maybe you're able to have the legs straight, lengthening up through the spine. Breathe. Draw your jawline back, tuck your chin, and you're just going to look down the front line of the body. You want to feel that your pubic bone is moving towards the floor, and the tailbone and the pubic bone are moving towards each other. So we're not rounding or arching. So we're just sitting tall. That's it. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. Seated staff. And then from here, we're going to bend our knees, and you're going to hinge forward, and I'd like you to be sitting in a way that your ribs and your thighs can touch. So you see there's no space between my ribs and my thighs. Now maybe you've got a little tummy or things like that. You can take the legs a little wider, make room for your belly. And you're going to come forward. Now if you can get the feet, that's great, and just hold the feet with your hands, or maybe you grab the ankles, or maybe you have your hands by the sides of the feet. Now, keeping your ribs and your thighs connected, you're going to very softly try to lengthen the legs out a little bit. Now, you do not straighten the legs more than your ability to stay connected. And you breathe. Soften your eyes. This is called a full seated forward fold. Lengthening out through the crown of your head. Just do the best you can. So the necessity of having your legs straight is not there. Breathe.
Each breath, ebbing and flowing. Just working really deep and deep. Yeah. Try to get as close as you can. Don't worry about the hamstring. Each breath, all the way in, all the way out. And then from here, you're going to very softly rise up, sitting up nice and tall again into the seated staff. Let's bend our right knee. We're going to come into what's called a half forward fold or Janu Shirsasana. And you're going to drop the knee out and you're going to put the bottom of your foot inside of your right thigh. And now the same action, we're going to sit up nice and tall. What you're going to notice is that when we're seated with one leg straight, this is easier, it's more attainable. Now you might find that because of a hip restriction or something of that nature, maybe you need to have a little bit of a lift underneath the knee joint, okay? Now, wherever you're at, whether you have a comfort, support, you're sitting up on a little edge of a blanket or a bolster, toes are pointed up, knee is pointed up, same action. So you're gonna come straight forward into the half fold. Now, if you round at the back, you bend the knee, and you're going to come into that fold, stay connected, and come down. Lengthening out through the crown. Maybe you can get a hold of the foot. Maybe the hands are on the block. If you can really reach around, you can actually grab a hold of the opposite wrist. So it might look like that, and then you just come into the movement. You could also be just simply sitting here, hinging. This is good. Breathe. We're keeping the spine from the crown of the head to the tailbone straight. Each breath, ebbing and flowing. Ebbing and flowing. Now with our inhale, we're going to gently rise up. Release the arms, take both legs and stretch them out. Sitting in Dandasana again. Notice the feet, the legs, the kneecaps are pointed out. We're sitting tall. And then you're going to bend your left knee, drop the knee out to the side. Here we are. And then from here, same action. So we'll start out, knee bent, maybe a little lift under the knee. What do you need to support yourself so that you can stay nice and tall? And then we're hinging at the hips. This is the fold. So notice if you're trying to get the foot, if you think this is all about the hamstring, it's got a lot of components from the top of the head all the way to the heel. So now we come forward, and then keeping that connection between the rib and the thigh, maybe we come all the way down. You can have a hold of the foot, the ankle, maybe you're just here, leaning in. Say, that's good. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. Just enough effort. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Keep in mind that left and right side are different, and so you'll have a different experience according to the hips, the hamstrings. And then from here, with our inhale, we're gonna rise up, sitting up nice and tall. Take both of your legs, extend them back up, softly gazing downward. Dandasana, seated stack position. And then from here, we're gonna release the blanket away, and we're gonna do another vinyasa. So we're gonna cross our ankles, bring our hands to the mat, we're gonna lift the knees, and we're gonna go back into a down dog. Now maybe you'll stay in the down dog, you don't need to do anything, or again, you can be rocking, you could come into cat stretches, or we're gonna come into our plank position. Chaturanga Dandasana, we come on down, point our toes, lift the chest, upward dog, launch the legs. With an exhale, drop the knees, turn the toes under, lift, and back we go. Downward facing dog. Soften your eyes, deepen your breath. And then let's look between our hands, and we're gonna take the knees to the space between the hands, and we're gonna sit on down. All right, so now we're gonna move towards finishing. So we're gonna start out, we're going to take our block,
and we're going to bring the block underneath our hips. And so we're gonna lift ourselves up, and the block is gonna come underneath our hips, and we're gonna come into an assisted legs up version. So our arms are along the sides of our torso, our chest is puffed up, our tailbone is just above the block edge, and our hips are just above the block edge at the top and the bottom. Pick up your knees, and then bring the legs up. Soften your eyes, deep inhales and exhales. All the way in, all the way out. All the way in, all the way out. Breathe. Eyes are gently gazing toward your navel. Each breath all the way in, all the way out. All the way in, all the way out. With your next exhalation, we're going to bend our knees and bring the feet back down onto the floor. Set the feet solid. Pick up your hips. Take the block out. Move it off to the side. And then just let your hips drop down, finding a neutral spine. Soften your eyes. Deepen your breath. All the way in. All the way out. And then from here, we're going to bring the knees in again, give ourselves a little squeeze. And then you're going to cross your ankles, lift yourself up, or roll yourself onto your side. We're going to bring our hands onto the mat and step both of our feet back into the downward facing dog. From the downward dog, we'll hinge forward into the plank position, Chaturanga Dandasana. Come on down, point the toes, lift the chest, pick yourself up, upward dog, drop your knees, turn your toes under, lift, and back we go into our downward facing dog. Breathe. Then from there, you're gonna look between your hands, and again, we take our knees to or through, and we sit on down. Right? Now, we're going to come into a fish position, and with our fish, you're either going to use a block, you can come up onto your elbows, or again, you'll use a bolster. So the easiest variation for your fish is to bring the bolster along this way, lay back over the bolster, the shoulders are just off the edge of it, and our head is on the floor, or you put something underneath for support. The knees can be bent, or the legs can straighten out, or we bring the bottoms of the feet together, dropping the knees out, being in a cobbler type of a variation. So this is a very soothing, regenerating posture at the same time. It is calming, it lowers your body temperature, it's lovely. Otherwise, if you want a more active variation, you have several practices you can do. You can come into the full fish, was to simply sit on the thumbs, lift up onto the elbows, pick up your chest, the neck gently melts back, and we slide back
and the back of the head just gently touches the floor. Eventually, you won't be using your arms at all. Maybe you can bring the hands together and we just gently touch. To come out, the hands come overhead. We lift and bring yourself back down gently. Or you can see the different variations of a soccer ball. You have blocks underneath the spine. And so that block comes right underneath the sternum, just comes to the top edge of the shoulders, lays back, and there you are in an assisted fish. And you can put different levels underneath the head to make you feel comfortable. Whichever variation you're doing, if you're supported, you bring the hands behind the head, bend the knees, and when you're ready, you lift yourself out and you put the head down. Take your time, making sure that there's nothing lingering in the neck or the upper back that you might not have detected when you were actually in the posture. And then from here, when you lift yourself out, you can run through another vinyasa, which would be going back to the down dog. Maybe you run through a full vinyasa, and it's time for us to come into our final surrender of Shavasana. So we can step ourselves back if we'd like to have another vinyasa, coming into the down dog. I always like to feel, so what does this down dog feel like in comparison to the first one that I did? You can come into Chaturanga Dandasana, come on down, Cobra variation or up dog variation. Build the poses. As you exhale, drop your knees, turn your toes under, lift, and we all end up back in downward facing dog. Look between your hands and take your knees to the space between your hands and sit on down. Excuse me. Now when we come into Shavasana, you can use a bolster underneath you, underneath your thighs. You can lay perfectly straight. You could add a little extra height, maybe have a little bit of a lift under your head. I'm going to use some blankets underneath my thighs and a bolster. And what we like to do is we want the hips to stay onto the floor, and we're going to lay ourselves back. Now you could also be completely flat. The arms are palms face up, resting along the sides of your torso. Feel the shoulder blades just resting down onto the floor, back of the head. So you feel neutral. You like to have the face parallel to the ceiling. Soften through your palms. Give your tongue lots of space. Soften your eyes, let them sink. Releasing the jawline. Empty your palate. Nothing you need to do now. Feeling all of that effort soften and slip away. Each breath ebbing and flowing in and out. Let the legs be heavy. Feel the back of the hip girdle, shoulder girdle, backs of your arms and legs. Notice how everything touches down into the surface underneath you. Let the floor take you. And tune into the gentle movement of your breath. Each breath gently ebbing and flowing in and out, in and out. Soft, soft, soft eyes, deep, deep breath. All the way in, all the way out.
Your mind, it drifts away. Gently guide it back. And rest the mind in the breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to begin to deepen the breath. Add gentle movement with your fingers and your toes. Diaphragm, ribs, expanding in all directions. Give yourself a nice stretch if you'd like to. And then we're going to bend both of our knees, roll off onto the side, and catch your head on your arm. Listen to your body. And then from here, when you're ready, we're going to push ourselves up, come to a seated position, and bring a cushion underneath you. Lift yourself up so that the spine is nice and tall and you're not rounding through your lower back. Legs can be in whatever configuration works for you. Take a few deep inhalations and exhalations. Feel the breath moving into the sides, into the back. Just if you have that strap around the rib cage again, feeling the breath moving 360 degrees, expanding, returning to the center. And let's gently bring our hands to heart center. We'll take a deep breath in together. Exhale. And let's take another deep breath in. Another deep breath. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. This concludes session number 4 of our 6-week program. I look forward to seeing you in session 5. Take good care. Bye for now.